Ugh, God, what time is it? It's oh Jesus Christ! It's 4 in the morning. I couldn't sleep this morning, so if I sound a bit groggy, that's why. I put out a poll the other day of what character analysis people were more interested in, if it was Guile or Johnny Cage, and people chose Johnny Cage. They didn't choose Guile, who's one of the best Street Fighter characters, but nope. They didn't choose Guile. Bet you they would have voted for the Street Fighter character if it was Akuma, despite the fact that Akuma is infinitely less interesting. But no, Guile doesn't have the edgy, dark demeanor and have the murder soul rape move. He's just a good dude who loves his family. I guess that's just not interesting enough for the internet. It's okay, Guile. There's someone out there that loves you. But no, Johnny Cage is cool. We're going to do Johnny Cage today. So just a fair warning, the Mortal Kombat lore is kind of all over the place. Every timeline that pops up changes little details about all the characters or forgets things from the past or creates new things that conflict with old things. It's just sort of a mess. Like Johnny Cage's name isn't even Johnny Cage, it's John Carlton. Johnny Cage is technically a stage name that he uses when he becomes an actor, but in most timelines they don't even mention the name John Carlton, and Johnny Cage just seems to be his real name, to such an extent that when he has a daughter, his daughter's name is Cassie Cage, not Cassie Carlton. You can argue that in this timeline it's not a stage name, that he actually legally changed his name, and that's probably true, but it is still an assumption. Like, they never actually call him John Carlton. And there's a bunch of little changes like this that happen throughout every timeline. Some of the timelines they won't mention his parents, some of the timelines he has a mom and no dad, some of the timelines he has a dad and no mom. So just know that this video is going to be me piecing to the best of my ability his backstory and character. But just know that I'm aware that there are variations to it. So who is Johnny Cage? Well, he's kind of a fucking loser. But I mean that in the best way possible. As a child, Johnny Cage was brutally beaten every day by bullies at his school, as well as generally treated like shit by his father. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say how his father treated him was child abuse, but there was a general theme of constantly putting him down and putting really bad ideas into his head. I think the best description for Johnny Cage's father would be if you put the entire red pill movement into a person.
Dad always said, hungry people eat lunch, humble people serve it. Dad was an asshole.
However, despite this, Johnny Cage actually did have a very good mother. And she really got tired of seeing Johnny Cage cry himself to sleep every night because of these bullies and the general mistreatment from the people around him. So one day she surprised him by taking him down to the local martial arts school that was like in a strip mall for some reason. And while you usually think that these places were real crap, this one was actually really good. Johnny Cage took to it like a fish in water, and he grew very close to this master of his, becoming his star pupil. In like under a year, Johnny had a complete transformation where he was actually a pretty skilled fighter at this point. One day when the bullies were messing with him, he decided to start fighting back and use the martial arts that he learned. He broke the kid's arm, and while he got into serious trouble with both his parents and the school, he didn't really care. From that point on, he completely devoted himself to martial arts. When he was old enough to leave home, he decided to travel the world and find all the greatest martial artists that he could and learn as much as he can from all of them. Everything from karate to Muay Thai to Jeet Kune Do to fucking Aikido for some reason. He learned it all and eventually brought it back to the States, to good old sunny California for some reason. And while relaxed on the beach one day, he saw a man getting mugged by what would be considered the criminal element type. He decided to intervene and get this man's money back, and lo and behold, that man was a big-time movie producer. He saw Johnny's skills and thought that this man belongs on the big screen. Flash forward a couple of years and Johnny's now a big-time movie star, making movies that are described as martial arts schlock. All in all, Johnny becomes a rather beloved figure. His everyday life becomes fast cars, sex with beautiful women, and the admiration of adoring fans. But sadly, all good things must come to an end, and that's exactly what happened. As movies stopped making money, people stopped caring about poor old Johnny Cage, and he began to make below-average straight-to-video martial arts films. So don't you worry about good old Johnny, because after a while, things start to look up. His manager tells him about a martial arts tournament, a massive tournament involving some of the greatest fighters the world has ever seen. Unbelievable, Johnny thought to himself. This is the chance that he's been waiting for. Everybody just sees him as this untalented hack who can't act or fight. And while it's true that Mr. Cage cannot act, he can fight, and he was going to prove it. So Johnny's plan was simple: to win this tournament and show to the world that he's not just some hack actor, but a true to form legendary martial artist that could be compared to some of the greatest in the whole world. This would get people to start talking about him once more in a positive light and hopefully revitalize his acting career. But little did good old John Carlton know that this tournament was not what it seemed. He came there looking for a regular old martial arts tournament just to find out that this is actually a tournament involving multiple universes for the fate of the entire world. And don't you just hate it when that happens? Doesn't that grind your balls against a cheese grater? Well, it did to poor old Johnny, and he just wasn't having that shit. And that lasted for about 4 minutes until he realized that winning a tournament like that would be better than winning some basic bitch tournament. It also helped that he found this fine-ass honey named Sonya Blade, who he was down bad for. No kidding, Johnny was giving some serious step-on-me mommy vibes. And lo and behold, everything Johnny wanted came to be. He helped save the universe, got his career back, got married to that fine-ass honey, and had a child child named Cassie Cage. The man became a champion of Earthrealm, one of the greatest to ever live. He defended it from some of the most dangerous threats it's ever had, from Shao Kahn to even defeating the fallen elder god Shinnok in one-on-one combat. He became one of the go-to guys that world leaders called on when Earthrealm was in danger. And in his later years, he started training the next generation of heroes that would defend the world after he was gone, including his daughter, who became one of its greatest champions. And there's also a bunch of shit about him being a superhuman descendant of a war cult that was bred to kill gods, but that's not really that important to his character for some reason. And that's the history of Johnny Cage. But who is he really? He's a man that through the abuse suffered as a kid, developed a very low sense of self-worth. And I think this is a part of Johnny Cage that a lot of people don't realize when playing those initial games. Johnny doesn't really like himself. He doesn't think that he is worthy of love and respect. And when he becomes a movie star and has all these fans just showering him with all this love and admiration, that becomes the measuring stick by which he views his self-worth. So when he starts losing that stardom and that fan base, that admiration from strangers, he starts to lose his self-worth. This is what drives him into willingly joining a death battles with demons, mutants, and sorcerers that can kill him at any moment. Because for him, acquiring that love and respect is more important than his life. It's something he absolutely has to have. And this is why Sonya Blade was kind of his kryptonite. During the events of the story, he was forced to be with Sonya Blade in close proximity for quite a while they were battling all of these forces against Earthrealm. And Sonya Blade does not give two shits about Johnny Cage. From the very first moment she met him, she did not like him. And for Johnny Cage, she was a constant reminder of how little he deserved that love and respect. But it's not that she was just really mean to him and then he fell madly in love with her. It's not quite that simple. You see, Sonya is a very blunt and straightforward person. There's not a whole lot of bullshit with her. Whereas Luke Cage at this time was nothing but bullshit. I mean, the very being that is Luke Cage is a facade. It's not real. It is a character that John Carlton puts forth so that people will like him. Because this is the persona that he believes will garner that admiration that he's looking for. Not only does Sonya Blade just straight up not like this version of Johnny Cage, but she calls him out every time he tries to lean into it. Because of this, around her, and really at first only around her, he starts to bring out more of his true self and showing who he really is. And while I've already gone over how the abuse that he dealt with as a child brought about all these negative aspects of his personality, it also brought about what is arguably the best part of his personality, which is essentially that he absolutely despises bullies. He can't stand them. Because of his history as a child being beaten up every day by bullies, this gives him a sort of protective nature as an adult. He doesn't like it and doesn't tolerate when the strong pick on the weak, when men pick on women, when the rich pick on the poor. He doesn't like people swinging down. And how this ends up taking form in his life is he has this strong desire to guide people, to help the downtrodden. This is what Raiden sees in him at the very beginning of the story and why he recruits him to be a champion of Earthrealm from the start. This personality trait within Johnny Cage is what Sonya Blade falls in love with. She, along with everyone else, begins to see the heroic nature within Johnny. His selfless desire to help those who need help and to stand up for those who need protecting. While he originally joins the Mortal Kombat tournament for the sole purpose of getting his career back on track, as he starts to see what's going on within that tournament and within the greater universe as a whole, with Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung and Quan Chi and all of these other people who are preying on the weak, he starts to take it very personally. And as he starts to view the other champions of Earthrealm as his friends and eventually his family, he starts to see them as people that he also needs to protect. And fast forward later into the story, after Johnny Cage and Sonya get married, and then they have Cassie, and they get a divorce, and Cassie grows up into an adult. Johnny no longer has those self-worth issues that he had in his younger years. Once they're divorced, Sonya ends up treating Johnny pretty poorly. And throughout that time, he does everything he can to protect and be there for her and their daughter. And the story actually does something pretty clever here, whether they're aware of it or not. Initially, Johnny was trying to win over Sonya for his own recognition. He was having self-worth problems, and by gaining her admiration, he felt better about himself. But during their divorce, he wins her back by the exact opposite means. By doing everything he can to protect, support, and be there for his family, even him thinking that she does not love him anymore and expecting nothing in return, he is showing that he no longer has this sort of selfish love that he had before. This is true, genuine, selfless love. He no longer requires her validation. He's over that. He knows what he wants, who he is, and what he needs to do, and he does it. By this point in the story, his arc is done. He is the hero that he was always meant to be. He protects, supports, and guides those who need him to do so. And his self-validation bullshit is nowhere to be found. And he gets that way through, yes, the love of a good woman, and how that genuine love makes the validation of thousands of strangers completely irrelevant, but also by allowing him to feel feel genuine love for his wife and daughter, he comes to a realization that what he can do for other people is more important than what they can do for him. He's a genuine hero in every meaning of the word, and I don't think it's an extreme position to say that he's the best written Mortal Kombat character. I don't particularly like the way that Mortal Kombat is written 90% of the time. I have a lot of problems with the way that they do their story, but the vast majority of stuff that they've done with Johnny Cage is pretty damn solid character work. Johnny Cage is a genuinely well-written character with probably one of the best character arcs in all of fighting game stories. Anyway, that's gonna be all for me today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon, and y'all be safe out there, you hear?